group of students and young professionals running a variety of space-related events and competitions across the country. We also operate an early careers website called Space Careers UK, whose team run this webinar and which is designed to educate on the careers in the space sector. You can find all of the previous webinars through the Space Careers UK website or through the UKSEDS YouTube channel. Also, a recording of this panel will be available on the YouTube channel shortly afterwards. We will be holding further webinars in the upcoming months, so keep an eye out for those and follow us on social media for more. There's going to be a Q&A box on this page. If you're on YouTube, you will find a link to take you to this and you can ask questions for our panelists today. So I'm just going to ask all of our panelists to introduce themselves. Rosie, would you like to go first?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Rosie. I'm just finishing a PhD in astrobiology from the University of Edinburgh. And last summer I did a SPINternship with UK Launch Services Limited and Raptor Aerospace on developing a small sounding rocket education programme. And after that, I was actually hired by UK Launch Services Limited as their outreach lead. So I'm happy to talk more about SPINternships today.
Nice, thank you. And Gideon, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Gideon. I'm a graduate from the London School of Economics in Government and Economics, and I did my SPINternship in 2019. After that, I did a master's at Imperial College Business School and continued to work with the company I was with, which is Bryce Space and Technology. And I very recently in March accepted a full-time offer from them and have been very busy since.
Nice, thank you. And Mike?
Thank you. My name is Mike Trouse. I'm head of manufacturing for space at the Satellite Applications Catapult. I read mechatronic engineering at Manchester in the distant past, and I've got a background in additive manufacturing, metallurgy, materials, robotics, and increasingly rocket propulsion. Within the Catapult, I lead on all things upstream, so that's everything from spaceports, launch vehicles, in-orbit servicing, manufacturing, and as we start to move towards the moon, some of our nascent lunar activities as well.
Amazing, thank you. So yes, you can ask any of these panelists your questions. They are amazing, so make sure you get that opportunity. So I'm going to start with asking some questions that we've got already, and then I'll move on to the ones that come in. So how are the SPINternships different from other internships available in the space sector? Who would like to answer that?
I'll give that a shot if you're happy with that.
Yeah, thank you.
So SPINternships are fundamentally different because they're designed to operate within the space industry, partially funded by the UK Space Agency, partially to ensure that the workforce we need tomorrow is getting the experience it gets today. So internships that you can have in other organizations, in other sectors and other supply chains may well be vaguely relevant to what you might want to do in the longer term, but SPINterns are the only placements really in the UK which are fundamentally based around space technology and all the associate areas. It doesn't necessarily need to be technology based. It can be business, it can be project, it can be economics. There's a myriad of different people on this panel, all with different backgrounds, and they are all contributing to the UK space economy. So SPINternships are different because they're about space.
Okay, thank you. Has anyone here actually done an internship that isn't the SPINternship?
Yes, so I did several internships before I did my SPINternship. I'd say my career has been quite of a roller coaster in the sense that I bounced between industries and functions before I did my SPINternship. And at that point, I had really settled on what I wanted to do. But comparing the experiences, I think, like Mike said, because I specifically wanted to work in the space sector in a business and policy role, there wasn't anything like the SPINternship. It's really quite unique in the focus it offers, and as Mike said already, the fact that yes, there are engineering and technical roles, but also roles in business development and similar fields. So I'd say in terms of comparing it to previous experiences, it was quite unique.
Well, they do sound very like focused on space compared to just normal internships. So they do sound really like a good opportunity to take if this is the direction you want to go in. Okay, so next question. What can I do to increase my chances of being accepted into a SPINtern placement? I feel like that could probably be best answered by either Gideon or Mike.
Let me go in there. If it says write a cover letter, please write a cover letter. So everyone applying, we have some fabulous applications for placements. The 2 recent SPINterns, which I advertised for in-orbit servicing manufacturing, we had over 170 applicants, and all of them were, to be honest, fabulous. But what differentiates you is not just your CV and the questions you ask, is write a cover letter, tell us why you want to do it, tell us what motivates you, tell us what makes you different to an extent. I mean, and like anything else, you're selling yourself in a very short burst. And it's the same way as if you go to a bad web page, you click and move on. If we read and we see, this is great, but we don't really know why you want to do this, we don't really understand what is motivating you for this position, then we will move on. So cover letter, cover letter, cover letter. And then secondly, if you are going to do a CV, etc., which isn't always necessary, and you want to include effectively information, make it readable. And if you want to link it to something like LinkedIn, etc., absolutely do that, but make sure it's up to date as well.
Awesome, thank you. Do you have any more input, Gideon?
Sure, I think Rosie can definitely jump in as well. But
Yeah.
I would say, so I would say prepare as much as possible, with which I mean, I understand this might be difficult sometimes. I've been in experiences where I'm applying to an internship. I know I really want the role, but in the past, maybe I haven't gotten enough sort of CV experiences on paper to prove my interest. So to the extent that is possible, I would definitely encourage you to get involved with as many initiatives as possible, both to gather interest, but also to prove your interest at the point of applying. So if you want to, say, apply to a SPINternship next summer, I'd spend the next year really exploring your areas of interest, seeing what's going on there. There's so many awesome student initiatives at the moment that there's really, I'd say, no shortage of stuff you can get involved with. So that's the one big piece of advice I'd give.
Awesome, thank you. Rosie?
Yeah, my main thing would be kind of adding on to what Mike said, which is just showing that you are interested and passionate about the role. So explaining why you are applying for it and what you can bring to it, and just showing that you will bring enthusiasm and interest to it. So just make sure that you include that on your covering letter or CV when you're applying.
Okay, thank you. It just sounds like just being really passionate and making sure they know why you want to do it is the most important thing, which is obviously really good for space because it's such a passionate subject that you can be involved in. So awesome. So what were your favorite experiences of the SPINternships? Rosie, would you like to start?
Yeah, so my internship, everything that I did was quite varied. So I enjoyed that no 2 days were quite the same. So I got to do things like doing market research, learning how to budget for events, leading meetings, which was something I'd never really done before. So I just enjoyed how many kind of skills I got to gain throughout it, and how different each day was.
Thank you. Do you think you learn quite a lot of transferable and technical skills in these then?
Definitely. There's so many things you can learn from so many different people throughout it, and people within companies are more than happy to speak to you about any questions you might have, or any support you need throughout the internship. So you almost feel like you're part of the company rather than just an intern, which I really, really thought was a great thing during my internship.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. Is there any skills that you developed that you didn't think you would develop going into your SPINternship?
I wasn't really sure what skills I was going to gain going into the internship. I knew I'd be speaking to a lot of people, but I didn't know, for instance, I would be learning about budgeting for events, how to market things. I even built a website during my internship that I wasn't sure I was going to do beforehand. So yeah, lots of different skills I gained throughout it, but I didn't know what they were going to be beforehand.
Awesome, thank you. How about Gideon? What did you learn? from your internship?
Well, that's a good question. I think it was largely okay, I'd say three things. First of all, I learned how to apply some of the skills I'd learned in previous experiences and in my degree, actually, within a space context. Then also, I think there was a lot, and I think this is a really big value of doing a SPINternship at Bryce, not to over promote, but I think I learned a lot about, on quite a granular level, the broad trends in terms of the commercial space sector. So this is something I think which is sometimes a little bit difficult to get a full view of, even if you're reading all of the publications that are out there, all of the space news sites. So I think, yeah, applying business skills in a space context and understanding how the technologies that are being developed at the moment, the companies that are springing up everywhere, how they fit together and what the competitive dynamics are there.
Okay, thank you. And from my understanding, Mike, you're on the employer side of the internships. Do you have any favorite experiences for having the internships there at your company?
It's always something about the dynamism that SPINterns bring. So, you know, we're a pretty fast-moving organization. We do a lot of interesting and cutting-edge technology, looking at space economics and a whole variety of other areas. But there's a certain degree of enthusiasm that actually, I would say, those of us who are more further along in our careers lack. And the thing which I find delightful about SPINterns is that you still ask the question why. You don't actually take no for an answer. And some of the ideas and innovations that our SPINterns generate are up on exactly the same level of those who have been in the professional field of space for 20 or 30 years. So some of our best breakthroughs, some of our most exciting developments have usually started with a SPINtern saying, well, why can't we do that? Or is that possible? Or I want to do this. So ultimately, you know, it's the imagination, I think, which is key for us.
Yeah, thank you. That's amazing. Like, you get to do an internship, and then it sounds like you actually get to make a difference as well whilst you're there. I heard that you get to do like a project whilst you're on your SPINternship. What is that about, Rosie?
Sure.
Mike, literally anyone.
You can answer, Mike, if you have something.
Okay, sure. So I have two SPINterns who are about to start, and they're going to be focusing basically on the design of an orbital space station for manufacturing. I love my acronyms, and in this case, this one's abbreviated to Orbital Demonstration for Industry, abbreviated to ODIN, which I quite like. And this is going to be very much focused on developing the technologies we need to build an orbital manufacturing facility for the UK. This is not a European Space Agency or NASA or other agency project. This is about developing the construct, the technical readout, basically, of how we build such a capability. And effectively, they're going to be working on basically giving me a blueprint for a space station.
Oh, that sounds really interesting. Thank you. Rosie, Gideon, did you do a project whilst you're on yours?
I guess the whole internship was kind of a project. So I focused on developing an event for university students to be able to launch rockets from the UK. So my whole internship was kind of developing this and making it become a physical thing. And then when I was employed afterwards, I'm continuing to make this an event. We had to downscale it slightly because of current restrictions in the UK of being the first year of an event. We're now focusing on CANSAT. But my kind of project was focusing on that, gauging interest from different universities, what kind of things they might like to see in such an event, and looking at how you organise an event like that and get approval for launching rockets from places in the UK.
Well, nice. That's really interesting as well. Thank you. How about Gideon? Did you do one?
Yeah, so I guess because Bryce is a business analytics consultancy, my SPINternship was lots of projects. Usually, I mean, the timeframes vary, but they can be something from 2 to 3 months, and then really long ones. But because of that, I got a really wide experience of the sorts of projects that are done at Bryce, both in terms of the types of clients, so both government and commercial clients, but also in terms of areas of the value chain and different types of applications. So that did make making my project showcase poster at the UK Space Conference a little bit difficult, because I didn't work on any one conference, any one project. It was more a medley, but I like that because it gave me a lot of breadth and insight.
Nice, thank you. Does anyone here have any tips for making the most out of your SPINternship? Anyone can start, I don't mind. You probably all have great answers for this.
I wouldn't say this is specific to the SPINternship. It's something I think I've learned over the years generally. I would say if you want to do something, ask. I know it sounds simple, but it's I think putting it into practice, you really do realize the benefits of, if you want to work on a particular area, or say I don't know, there's this event that you really want to go to and you think it would be helpful to your work, but it's in the working day, ask. And the more you do that, you know, I think the space sector is the nicest people out of any area. So I hope no one would say no. And even if they do, they'll let you know why. And it'll open doors for you beyond the already considerable experience that the SPINternship can give you.
Nice, thank you. Rosie, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. If there's something that's maybe slightly related to your project, but you're not actually doing as part of it, feel free to speak to someone in the company to either find out more about it, or see if there's anything you can do to link it into your project. From my experience, everyone's quite flexible, and they want you to be able to get things out of it that you would like to take beyond the SPINternship. So yeah, just don't be afraid to speak to people and ask them questions.
Thank you. Mike, do you have any more tips for making the most out of the SPINternships?
Be involved, get in there, talk to people. Take it basically as 8 weeks, where you've got 8 weeks, a finite amount of time to basically find out more about the space industry and make a good impression. If you make a good impression, then you'll find people who are willing to help you progress your career thereafter. So, you know, basically get involved in everything. I would caveat, there is always a balance between social activities of organizations, particularly larger ones, and the work you're doing. I would say, while you've got the opportunity, focus more on the work you're doing rather than trying to get a great corporate experience. If you do both, that's great, but you're realistically there from the space perspective. So make the most of the space component, not necessarily the free donuts.
Yeah, that's like, because the SPINternships are really focused on space, if you want to like experience the more corporate side more, maybe get another internship as well, because you could probably find out and experience it more there instead of being able to focus mainly on space, because obviously that's an amazing opportunity and you should do that. For your SPINternships, do you know like if there was a balance between like practical work or hands-on? Like, do you have like an even split between practical and written / admin work, or is it kind of just varied depending on where you go?
I think it's very varied depending on where you go. So my SPINternship was all remote because it was during the COVID-19 pandemic. So it was all based on a computer, but it was splitting the different tasks. So that would be a mix of doing meetings, maybe like you said, doing some admin, and also doing research into certain parts of the project. So it was all quite varied, but yeah, because of it being remote, it was maybe a little bit different.
Yeah.
I would, I guess it's slightly difficult for me to say, just because I guess I wasn't working in a position where there were technical areas. So, but in terms of, you know, client interaction, going places to work on projects or just do some research. Yes, it was very hands-on, and so I worked part-time at Bryce during my master's as well, in the first half, sorry. And I think, as Mike said, especially if you sort of work hard and make sure that you're performing at your highest level, then it might it also opens doors for you to get given more responsibility and work on different areas within the company as well later on, possibly. So yeah, I would say in my own way it was quite hands-on and practical.
Nice, thank you. Rosie, you said that your SPINternship was remote. Do you think that it affected your experience at all, or was it just as good, do you believe?
I think it was just as good. So the companies were just really, really nice. We had virtual coffee breaks and we had socials after work to get to meet people, even though I didn't get to meet them face to face. So even though some bits were obviously going to be a bit different, I think we managed to make it work really well. And the people I had to organise meetings with for the internship were all happy to have them online and virtually. So it all managed to work really well, given that it was remote.
Nice. Do you think there's anything about having a SPINternship in person that you would have wanted compared to the experience you had?
I think it was just the kind of being in an office and feeling like you're there and that you're at work was probably the thing that I missed, and you'd be able to actually see someone to ask them a question rather than just emailing them or sending a message on Microsoft Teams or whatever you're using. So I think that was the bit that I missed, but I think they did a really good job of making me feel like part of the team, even though I wasn't physically there.
Nice. Thank you. Gidron, was yours remote or was that in person?
So it was in person, but because the company in the UK at that stage adopted quite a flexible working model. So actually, I think I got an early taste of the hybrid work week before COVID-19 actually hit, which I think, I mean, from what I've seen in terms of surveys, people prefer anyway, and it worked for me quite well. There was quite a good balance between working from home and being on site, and hopefully, I do like the in-person part of projects, and I think especially in the sort of brainstorming planning stages, it's helpful to be together in a room. But in terms of the last year or so, it's also worked. I would say I hope that SPINterns can be working at their companies in person soon, though.
Hopefully. Thank you. Mike, how has it been with having the remote working with the SPINternships from your end?
Well, our two internships haven't started yet, and actually what's interesting about the space industry is the space industry is defined as a key industry, and key workers. So myself, many of my colleagues, we haven't actually been remote working per se. We've been doing I mean, at the end of the day, for those of you who've worked with launch vehicle companies, there's no way you can test your own launch vehicle or rocket engine in your shed at home. It just doesn't work. The neighbors get super unhappy. So much of these activities have to be physically done at location, in location, be it manufacturing, be it test, etc. The two SPINterns that we have starting later this month, they will both be in a combination of both remote working, because that obviously is great for facilitation of many things. But at the same time, they'll also be getting together with my team and some of my other colleagues as well at some of our physical sites at Westcott and in Harwell. For the SPINterns we've had over the course of the last year, I think, yes, it has been interesting, but we've also tried to give as many opportunities as possible to try and get people physically into the same location, because I think, as everyone will agree, you can't be in innovation when you're in the same space as everyone else. Some things you just can't do remotely.
Yeah. Do you think that potential future lockdowns will affect the placement, like all the new measures that they might bring out?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the thing is, if anyone thinks COVID's going to disappear with vaccines and things like that, they're probably kidding themselves. The reality is COVID's going to be with us, and I'm afraid it's going to be with us for generations. And if this isn't, this won't be the first pandemic of the 21st century. There will be more, and there will probably be ones which are worse. However, we have developed means and ways of working around that. We live in a state of heightened technological capability, and I think that we will find means to adapt and overcome. I mean, ultimately, what humanity does best doesn't matter what nationality you are. What we do best is we innovate, and we innovate best as organizations, as teams, and as people.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that makes sense, because I feel like COVID's been going on for so long, like everyone's kind of adapted and overcome any barriers there were in the first place. So any future SPINternships, if they are affected, you will have like a really great experience anyway. So still go and apply, like everyone watching. I got a question from the audience. Someone says, like anonymous says, can I apply to more than one SPINternship? When should I expect to hear about the outcome of my application? Mike, maybe you could answer that one as well, since you're on the employer side.
Sure. I mean, we'd love to say we'd do it faster and we'd be able to tell you really fast. But the problem is we get slightly overwhelmed by the number of candidates applying, and we also have to work with the challenges of our businesses, etc., in terms of what they need. So I'd ideally say we should be able to tell you within 8 weeks. The reality is it might be a little bit longer. And if it is, I just ask you to bear with us when that happens, because that's just one of those things which is fundamentally, it's just a bit challenging. And we can get around it to an extent, but sometimes we just can't.
Okay, thank you. Rosie and Gideon, when you applied, did you only apply to one SPINternship, or did you apply to more, or if that's allowed?
Yeah, I only applied to one. You can apply to more than one SPINternship, I'm pretty sure. I only applied to one because it was what sounded appealing to me. So I'm really interested in the education side of things and linking it to space. So the idea of having a project that linked those two together was perfect for me. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you can apply for more than one if there are projects you're interested in.
Awesome, thank you. Gideon?
Yeah, I was the same. I think the sort of work that was advertised for the SPINternship under Bryce really flashed me. So that was the only SPIN participating company I applied to. But as I understood it, I could have applied to more companies.
Awesome, thank you. I remember going to a presentation about the SPINternships, and the presenter was talking about how if you went to like a smaller company, you might be able to do more than if you went to a larger company. Do you know if that's true? Did you have any sort of experiences with that?
The company UKSEDS Limited, I work with, have about 10 people. Company, so it's quite a small company, but I found that was beneficial because you got to know everyone in the company, and people made time to meet with the SPINternships. So there was myself and there was another SPINtern at the same time. I think it kind of helped us feel like part of the company because it was quite small. But I don't have experience of working with a bigger company to comment from that perspective.
Yeah, thank you. Gideon, do you have experience with either side?
Yeah, so Bryce has, there's Bryce US and Bryce Space and Technology UK, and the Bryce US team is a lot larger and has been around longer than Bryce UK. So it's a small team, but growing quickly. But that meant at the time, it was, yeah, I do feel that I got probably more work than I would have if it was a huge company. And also it's meant that I think it would be fair to say that if you do continue with the company that you do a SPINternship with, if it's a smaller company, you'll get given responsibility a lot faster. At least that's what I've found. In terms of how it compares to doing an internship at a large company, I don't have direct comparisons in terms of a large space company, so perhaps I can't comment on that. But I think because in smaller companies things might be a little bit more flexible as well in terms of the team dynamics and the kind of work that you can be doing. I think that's a plus, and it also lets you, it gives you a little bit more range and opportunities to develop.
Amazing, thank you. We have another question from the audience. How can applicants actually get a SPINternship with how competitive they seem to be? What can we do to stand out? So does anyone think there's anything else you can do to stand out except from obviously showing your passion for the space?
So, I mean, what you can do is, and it's challenging, and we are internally, we are recognizing the demand is greater, and we are going to look to see if we can create more SPINternships and get more funding to support more candidates, etc. What you can do is, and this is, this is slightly against probably the standard form is, you can always reach out to any organization at any point during the year and say, have you got any opportunities coming up? So this is not necessarily bypassing the process. SPINterns are a very defined package, but you can certainly reach out. And you know what, right now I've got too many projects to deliver, insufficient time, and I'm trying to work out when I sleep, and my team are trying to do the same. If you reach out and say, hey, I'm really interested in doing 6 weeks, 8 weeks, a day a week for 2 months or something like that, there's a good chance that organizations will go, you know what, we could really do with someone bright who wants to be here, who's curious and can make a difference. And it might not be a SPINtern, but it might be another way of getting a placement. So not, I suppose, an answer of how do you make yourself stand out, but how about thinking about there were some other ways to get those experiences you might want?
Thank you, that sounds really interesting. I'm sure like a lot of people maybe haven't thought about that, and they could go ahead and do that if you're in the audience.
I mean, just to chime in there, I mean, I'm going to regret saying this, and I'm pretty certain I regret saying it last time I spoke on SEDS, but if you want some advice, or you want some guidance, or you want to know about opportunities out there, and there are probably a bunch of folks listening to this saying, but we asked you last time and you didn't tell us anything. I know it's been a busy year, but if you email me or reach out to me on LinkedIn, if I can think of something which is pertinent, or I've got some time, I will certainly basically give you some suggestions in terms of what you can do, or point you in the direction where I think there might be opportunities. And I think over the course of the year, there's going to be a lot of exciting opportunities. So there's definitely stuff out there.
Okay, thank you. We don't actually have any more questions from the audience. So is there any last words anyone wants to say about any of this that we've spoken about, like the SPINternships or literally anything?
I mean, I think obviously I can in some ways only speak for my own experiences, but I got to see a lot of the SPINterns present at the UK Space Conference at the end of my thing, and it seemed very much like positive experiences all around. So if you're on the fence about applying, definitely apply. It's worth it, and if it doesn't work out the first time, then get involved with as many other things as possible, and the more experience you gather, the more competitive you'll be, but also it'll help you figure out what you want to do. It'll expose you to more stuff. You'll learn a lot on the way. So yeah, that's all I would say. Thank you. Rosie?
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. It's such a great opportunity, so I would wholeheartedly recommend applying for a SPINternship if you're interested and not sure whether to. You get such a good kind of network of people around you. You have the opportunity to speak to the other SPINterns who are completing them at the same time as you. So you get to meet people doing all sorts of different projects that you've maybe never heard of before. And you learn so much and so many skills. So yeah, I would really recommend it.
Awesome, thank you. So thank you to everyone in the audience for all of your submissions on the questions. And I'd like to say a massive thank you to all of our panelists here today. You guys were amazing, and it was awesome to find out about your experiences and all the skills you learned and just your opinions on everything. So thank you so much for being here. I hope everyone's found this useful. I have. It's definitely persuaded me even more to go and apply to the SPINternships. And yeah, that's pretty much everything. So everyone watching, we actually have a feedback form if you'd like to fill that out, because we'd love to hear from you and what you thought of this webinar. And yeah, this is going to be it's just going to be on our YouTube forever. So if anyone wants to like go back and listen to anything that these people have said, then go back and check it out, because they said some really amazing things. So yeah, thank you for watching, and this has been a great webinar. So thank you from everyone here at UKSEDS.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you.